Few television series have defined their era quite like Dynasty. First premiering in 1981, the original Dynasty was a glamorous, high-stakes soap opera that epitomized the excess and drama of the 1980s. Fast forward to 2017, and the CW rebooted the series, injecting it with a fresh, modern edge while staying true to its core themes of wealth, power, and betrayal. But how do these two versions compare? Let's take a deep dive into Dynasty then and now. Created by Richard and Esther Shapiro, the original Dynasty was ABC's answer to Dallas, another primetime soap focused on the lives of the ultra-rich. The 1981 show followed the Carrington family led by oil tycoon Blake Carrington, played by John Forsey, his glamorous and fiery wife Crystal, played by Linda Evans, and his cunning ex-wife Alexis, portrayed by Joan Collins. The series was known for its over-the-top storylines, lavish costumes, and legendary catfights, particularly between Crystal and Alexis, which became cultural phenomena. At its peak, Dynasty was one of the most watched shows in America, embodying the opulence of the Reagan era. Joan Collins' arrival in Season 2 as the scheming Alexis Carrington skyrocketed the show's popularity, turning it into a must-watch weekly spectacle. In 2017, the CW revived Dynasty with a fresh, modern twist. Developed by Josh Schwartz, Stephanie Savage, and Sally Patrick, the reboot reimagined the story for a younger audience while maintaining the core themes of the original. Blake, played by Grant Show, remained the powerful patriarch, and his conflicts with his children, especially Fallon, took center stage. In the original, Fallon was a supporting character. In the reboot, she took the lead as a witty, ambitious, and bold main character, played by Elizabeth Gillies. This shift reflected the changing role of women in television, with Fallon becoming the driving force of the series. Another major transformation was Crystal Carrington, who was reimagined as Crystal Flores, a Latina character played by Natalie Cali. This change added a more cultural dynamic to the series. And of course, Alexis, played by Nicolette Sheridan, still delivered the same level of calculated manipulation and high drama that made the original so iconic. However, her reintroduction in the reboot was much more dramatic and unexpected, ensuring her arrival packed a punch. Fashion has always been a defining element of Dynasty. The 80s version was known for its over-the-top extravagant looks, huge shoulder pads, dazzling jewelry, dramatic furs, and gowns that oozed luxury. Joan Collins' Alexis Colby set the gold standard for TV fashion with her fierce high-fashion ensembles exuding power with every outfit. The show became synonymous with excessive wealth, and its fashion choices reflected that to perfection. The reboot honored this legacy by modernizing it with sleek, trendy styles. Costume designer Meredith Mackworth-Pollock, known for her work on Gossip Girl, Fallon's wardrobe included designer power suits and high-fashion cocktail dresses, emphasizing her dominance in the corporate world. Crystal brought a more effortless elegance, mixing Latin-inspired fashion elements with high-end brands. Alexis, of course, remained a fashion powerhouse, donning bold pieces that reflected her manipulative and extravagant nature. Fallon's wardrobe subtly changed as she grew into a more responsible businesswoman, moving from flashy, youthful dresses to more structured, sophisticated looks. Similarly, Crystal's outfits transitioned from soft, flowing fabrics to stronger statement pieces as she asserted her power within the Carrington family. The reboot also featured more diversity in styles. Whether it was a lavish gala, a hostile boardroom meeting, or a dramatic confrontation at the Carrington estate, fashion remained at the heart of the Dynasty experience. The show also embraced street-style influences, with characters like Sam bringing fresh and youthful energy to the wardrobe. The core themes of Dynasty, family power struggles, betrayal, and romance remain intact, but the reboot has updated the storytelling for a modern audience. The original series thrived on melodrama, with love triangles, secret affairs, and shocking twists at every turn. The reboot made a conscious effort to incorporate modern social and political themes. Issues like corporate corruption, climate change, and the impact of social media are woven into the storyline, making the show more relevant to today's audience. Additionally, the power dynamics have shifted. Whereas the original focused heavily on male-driven conflicts, the reboot placed women at the forefront of the drama, with Fallon and Crystal battling for control of the Carrington Empire. The presence of social media in the reboot also changes how scandals unfold. Despite having a dedicated fan base, the reboot never reached the cultural dominance of its predecessor. It lasted 5 seasons before concluding in 2022, making it a respectable run, but never quite achieving the must-watch status of the 1980s original. One of Dynasty's hallmarks has always been its legendary rivalries. The original show's clashes between Crystal and Alexis were unforgettable, featuring everything from slaps to full-blown brawls in fountains. Their long-standing feud was fueled by jealousy, power struggles, and, of course, their shared connection to Blake Carrington. Alexis, played by the iconic Joan Collins, was the ultimate villain, using her sharp wit and even sharper fashion sense to dominate every confrontation. Crystal, played by Linda Evans, was often seen as the more virtuous character, but she was never afraid to fight back when pushed. Their catfights, whether in a luxurious mansion, a horse stable, or even a lily pond, became the gold standard for on-screen feuds, setting the tone for countless soap operas to follow. In the reboot, the rivalries continued but were reimagined for a modern audience. Fallon and Crystal took over the central conflict, with Fallon resenting her father's new wife and seeing her as an outsider. Their confrontations were just as fiery, but instead of solely fighting over Blake's affection, the battles extended into business, power, and family loyalty. The reboot also introduced more female-driven power struggles beyond romantic entanglements. The new fights, while still extravagant, were infused with more humor and self-awareness, making them just as entertaining while appealing to younger viewers. The original Dynasty of the 1980s was a lavish escape into the world of the ultra-rich. It focused on extravagant wealth, dramatic love affairs, and ruthless business rivalries, but it rarely touched on real-world socio-political issues. The conflicts were personal rather than reflective of larger societal struggles, making it a glamorous soap opera devoid of deeper commentary. While it was undeniably entertaining, the show existed in a bubble, untouched by the social and political climate of the time. In contrast, the 2017 reboot reimagined Dynasty for a modern audience by integrating contemporary social and political themes. One of the most significant updates was the introduction of Crystal Flores, a Latina woman from Venezuela, replacing the original Crystal Carrington. This change allowed the show to explore topics like immigration, cultural identity, and the struggles of being an outsider in powerful spaces. The political instability of Venezuela was also subtly referenced, adding depth to her character's backstory. Another major shift was the portrayal of Jeff Colby. In the 80s, Jeff was a successful black businessman, but race was rarely acknowledged in his storyline. The reboot, however, tackles themes of racial inequality, legacy wealth, and corporate power structures. Jeff's rivalry with the Carringtons often highlighted the challenges of breaking into elite spaces traditionally controlled by white dynasties. Additionally, the reboot embraced the digital age, incorporating themes like social media scandals, cancel culture, and corporate corruption. Despite their success, both the original Dynasty and its reboot eventually came to an end some years later. The reasons for their cancellations were different. The OG Dynasty was a ratings juggernaut in its prime, reaching its peak in the mid-80s as one of the most watched shows in America. However, by the late 80s, audiences began to lose interest. The rise of new television trends, declining writing quality, and over-the-top plotlines such as amnesia twists, doppelgangers, and sudden resurrections led to a sharp drop in viewership. By 1989, ABC pulled the plug, marking the end of an era of lavish primetime soap operas. The 2017 reboot faced a different challenge. While it had a dedicated fan base, it never reached the mainstream popularity of its predecessor. Airing on The CW, a network geared toward younger audiences, the show struggled with ratings despite strong streaming numbers. The shift in TV consumption, with more viewers preferring on-demand content over weekly broadcasts, made it difficult to sustain traditional network success. After 5 seasons, Dynasty was cancelled in 2022 as part of the CW's restructuring, proving that even modern reinventions of classic series face an uphill battle in today's fast-evolving entertainment industry.